It all stems from when LeBron wore one of these that one night in 2007. Yeah, that's I got World what is it? World Series patch. There you go.
You guys in it this year?
What's that?
Are the Yankees in it this year?
They're not.
Oh,
no,
okay.
none of the three top-paying teams, including the Mets, are in the playoffs this year. But that's a great segue. Let's go into that. So we're already through the wild card round by the time we recorded this episode. I got to fix this hat here. Again, is this the second year we've done the best of three wild card round, or is this the third year? Because last year I don't think they had any series go best of three. And this year, none of them did, for sure.
The American League last year, it was Seattle in 2 over Toronto, and Cleveland over Tampa Bay in 2, Philadelphia over the Cardinals in 2, and then the Padres over the Mets in 2. So,
okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's 2 straight years, the wild card round, that it has not even gone best of 3.
Couple things. Number one, literally the entire National League Division Series setup right now is the exact same, except it's Arizona instead of San Diego. Exactly the same. But the thing we wanted to talk about was the games of yesterday, where I want to start off in the American League. I did not expect Texas to do what it did to Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay expected what Texas did to Tampa Bay to happen. Another year, another disappointing finish for the Rays in the playoffs. You said they were the definition of peaking too early because they were, for the first 2 months of the year, they looked like they were going to be what the Braves are now.
I think we also thought, is there a chance this team never loses?
Yeah.
Because they won 14 in a row to start the season,
yes.
something like that?
And you know, they had a bad first game where they made 4 errors. The offense couldn't get things going. They only scored 1 run throughout the 2-game stretch. So Texas proved Texas has been a good offensive team this year, and they proved it in this series. Now, what I'm wondering is, we've seen a couple of management moves already this year. We mentioned Showalter not returning to the Mets, Phil Nevin not returning to the Angels. What's his name? Gabe Kapler not coming back to the Giants, which is interesting. Do you think, and I'm only saying this because we're 3 years removed from their World Series run. Do you think, and I'm asking this too because for another team's sake, do you think that the Rays move on from Kevin Cash as their manager, and a certain team that housed Cash's employment before, do you think they jump on that opportunity?
Do you want the realistic answer here, or do you want the Guardian fan answer here?
As much as I love to be a dreamer, give me the realistic answer.
Realistic answer is probably they're not going to move off him.
No.
You look at 2 things. You look at the issue you had with Wander Franco, which actually happened when Cleveland was in Tampa this year.
Yeah, the day after the Guardians lost in that walk-off.
By Wander Franco, yeah, trust me.
They couldn't break that story game before.
Yeah. They added it for the Guards this year. That's all it was.
Joking, you know.
That was obviously a huge distraction. And then they had a lot of injuries, right? Look at us. I mean, there's not a lot you can do when you have injuries, right? And especially your starting rotation. The guy that they've been missing the past 2 years, Tyler Glasnow, ends up being the most healthy pitcher they have all year. And it's like, that's the guy that you kind of are like, he could get hurt again. He has this injury problem.
And more appearances on John Boy's podcast rather than, is that John Boy or who does he do the show with?
I think it is John Boy.
It's not. Oh, yeah. I thought it was Chris Rowe. I don't know why. Sorry.
Either way, could be both.
Sorry.
Same tomato. Both good baseball podcasts. You look at that. I just don't see it how they would move off him. I wouldn't be shocked though. I did not see Gabe Kapler getting canned by the San Francisco Giants. Buck Showalter, I had a feeling he was out. He's getting older. He's getting older, and also the team's gotten worse. So hopefully, Francisco Lindor is enjoying being on a team that has a worse record than Cleveland this year. That's neither here nor there. But Tampa's just in a very, 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 very awkward spot, right? 19,000 people show up to their first playoff game.
I could not believe that game one.
I was upset last year in game 1 against Tampa when we played at 12:05 on a Friday afternoon,
right?
And we still had 30,000 people. Can't blame weather. They play inside. Is it a good stadium inside? No, we know
it's rotting from the inside out.
We know Tropicana is not good, but this is a playoff game. Like, tickets weren't even expensive.
I know.
And they only got 19. So game 2, though, was better, Mitch. They had about,
Still, there was that one shot
people.
of the one fan in the empty upper deck seats. I'll give him that. But still.
Yeah, about 500 more people. They were at 21,000, I think.
Oh, my Lord. It looked like Progressive Field in April.
And now there's also the talk of Tampa's going to get a brand new stadium. How do you justify giving a team a brand new stadium? Like, do they have proof that people aren't coming because Tropicana is that bad? Or I just think that they're in a very, very awkward spot. This is a team that has also had discussions in the past of Yeah, Tampa Bay could be relocated.
The Montreal thing. Yeah. They would be better off just building a smaller stadium with better amenities rather than going for the same 40,000 seat, 35,000, 40,000 seat park that every team has, because St. Petersburg is not the market for them. And it is a market for them since 1998. But literally, the hockey team and the football team play in Tampa, and they bring in numbers. Now, granted, they bring in championships. The Rays haven't yet. But I think the Rays would be well suited for Tampa. Now, I would think they wouldn't have been able to broker a deal if they're not focused on Tampa. It's either always been St. Petersburg or Canada with this team. I don't get that.
I don't either. You mentioned the Bucks and the
Lightning
winning championships. It's not like the Rays are this just bad team that has a good year. The Rays are one of the most consistent teams in baseball.
This is a good organization.
They when you look at small markets, Tampa Bay and Cleveland are very comparable. Mm-hmm. They've both been very successful. One had a Hall of Fame manager in Terry Francona. The other one is Kevin Cash, who is a disciple of the Terry Francona coaching tree. Yeah. And he has been able to do very, very good things in Tampa with almost the same restrictions in Cleveland in terms of the budget and cap room and how much money they're willing to spend. But this is a consistently good baseball team. And so I don't understand how they cannot get fans of their games.
Would you say that Kevin Cash is the most successful branch of the Terry Francona managing tree?
Certainly not Mickey Callaway.
It's not. No, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
I'm trying to think who else is out
there.
Because
I guess you also have to include Boston. But did any managers after Francona because
Cora doesn't really count.
No,
he was just a player.
Yeah,
Francona.
Yeah,
that's a good question. Really good question.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Kevin Cash would be the most successful
manager of the year.
Yeah, it's stunning though. It really is. And Texas is a team that was just as good as Tampa all season long in terms of being hot and one of the better teams. And then they had a little lull. Yep. Got back into it. They didn't get the division on the last day of the season, but that's a team I still wouldn't want to mess with.
No, right now that'll be a good team to match up with. And they will match up with Baltimore, I believe, in this next round.
Saturday at 1 o'clock.
That'll be a good one. And then the other team that'll be moving on was the Minnesota Twins, who finally, for the first time since 2002, won a playoff series. Do you know who they beat in that playoff series? They made a movie that ends a movie.
Oh, the A's.
Yeah, the Moneyball A's. Yeah, that was a good. That was. I vividly remember seeing that image of the last out, the catch, and being like, "Oh wow, Minnesota. They never win a playoff series nowadays, but now they do." The fans showed up for those games. Yeah. They beat the Blue Jays in that first game where Royce Lewis had a heck of a performance, and then game 2 was, speaking of Moneyball, over analyticizing. Because Toronto's guy had 47 pitches thrown through the first.
Barrios, who's also a former twin.
Jose Barrios, former Twin, and the first 4 innings, I think, and then three, and then they had the Toronto bullpen work out the rest of the way. But and I know what someone said that he struggles through innings 4 through 6, but why are you moving on from him if he's dominating that early in the game?
And you're paying him the money you're paying him, right?
That's what I'm wondering.
You pay these guys for moments like this, and so I think it was overanalyzing. At the same time, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watched this game start to finish. I wasn't. I was fall practice yesterday, so I didn't get to watch it. But were the outs that he was getting hard hit? Were they deep out? That's always something to look at too. But at the same time, there's 2 ways to manage in the playoffs. There's that way of, all right, we're down 1-0. We're going to throw our best, right? You look at it, you're going to set up your number 1 guy to go game 2, right? You're either trying to win the series or you're trying to prevent it and push to game 3.
Right.
There's the other one of, I'm going all out to win game 1, like the Milwaukee Brewers did, and it bites you because they blew through their entire bullpen in game 1, and then yesterday they just did not have enough. Guys didn't have their stuff because you looked at some of the relievers, Mitch. Those are guys, 1-inning guys, that 20 pitches sometimes I'd say is probably the mark. They had guys going into the high 30s that are not used to it. Then to try to bring them back with no rest. And it was just the Brewers did everything they could to try to win that game in game 1. And when it didn't happen, I don't want to say smart enough, but I was aware because I watched that entire game to say, all right, I'm going to go bet in the Diamondbacks today because they're throwing Zach Gallen, who had a Cy Young type season, and the Brewers don't have a fresh bullpen.
Right. Who pitched game 1 for Arizona? Because he was notorious for...
He was, it's a French name. I will pull it up here now.
He was notorious for not being able to eat up a lot of innings this
he
year.
only went 2 2/3.
I think Arizona got pretty lucky with the way their bullpen performed. And then to have those back-to-back home runs on back-to-back pitches to get yourself back into the game certainly helped.
Fod?
Sure.
Fought? I think it's fought because people say it sounds like fart, but you're saying it in some accent.
Yeah.
Fought.
Yes.
His name. Yeah, he went 2 2/3, 7 hits, 3 earned runs. And his ERA before the game was atrocious. I think I saw something that actually stated he was going to have the highest ERA for a qualified starter to ever start game 1 of a playoff game.
That's insane.
Like
I mean,
over 5.
Arizona is probably the surprise team right now of the playoffs, even with the likes of Minnesota and Texas in there.
I would say it's Arizona, Minnesota, right? What did we hear all year with us being in the Central Division? Oh, they get a team in, but it's okay. They're not going to win a series.
Right.
We heard it last year.
Right.
They're not going to win that first round series with the Guardians.
Well, they got
the Twins aren't going to.
Well, they got the third best team in the East, so it's not like they beat a juggernaut. Toronto's good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not good,
but they're not what people I think try to make them out to be.
Yes,
and I think they had a lot of poor performances all around this year from certain players. Mm-hmm. And I think the moment of that game yesterday, which I did seeing
is the pickoff
of Vlad at second base. And the Twins kind of are playing with a little bit of energy and loose and whatnot.
They're doing what the Indians did in 2016.
Exactly. And I think playoff – what did I tell you last year? Just get in.
Yeah.
Just get in.
Yep.
Are the Braves the best team in baseball? Probably. Are the Dodgers right there as the second best team? Probably.
Yeah.
Are they the teams to beat? Yeah, I think they are.
Now,
but get in. Anything can happen.
Well, granted, one team that got in and we knew anything wasn't going to happen was Miami because they lost to Philadelphia pretty handily. And Philly, I think, is the one playing with house money for the second straight year. Again, correct. Atlanta's not going to – they knew they're going to have a series potentially on their hands. They played those simulated games in the week leading up to it because they have so much time off that they kind of got blindsided last year. They're going to try and not have the same thing happen to them again. I think the Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks in this one, unless the Diamondbacks really come to play like the Padres did last year.
Yeah.
But the NLC, the National League right now is so strong compared to the American League, and – like I won't be surprised if it's gonna be either Dodgers, Braves. I'm taking either Dodgers, Braves, or Phillies for my World Series champion, not just World Series rep.
I agree. I think the National League's stronger though, but I also do want to say I think we got to give the Orioles their flowers.
We do.
I think that's a team that nobody knows because they're so young.
Yeah.
Right. They are a team that overtook the Rays, that were the hottest team in baseball pretty much for a majority of the year until the Braves caught fire. I'm really intrigued to see what Baltimore does because they are young. Virtually no playoff experience in that roster, and they won 101 games. They had the second most wins in baseball this year behind the Braves of 104.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting matchup, Baltimore and Texas. But I also think besides Atlanta being caught off guard last year by Philly was just a hot team, right? That was my whole get in, anything can happen. I didn't expect them to beat the Cardinals. They did. Didn't expect them to beat the Braves. They did. I did not expect them to go to the World Series and give the Astros a run for their money for a few games, and they did. I just hope it's not the Astros, Mitch. I just want to say I don't like Minnesota, but goodness, am I going to be a Minnesota Twins fan for this next series?
By default, sure. I mean, it's funny. First of all, the whole thing is Carlos Correa against the Astros. That's the big old headline that's coming into this series. And again, I'm still alive for my prediction that the ALCS is going to run through Texas. Mm-hmm. So
I hope it doesn't though, just because I don't want to see the Astros get there. But
I know, and to be fair, if Houston gets there, I don't think Texas has much of a chance. But that's what the Astros have against these other teams that are remaining in the AL is that they have the playoff experience. Now, granted, it's not the full power that they had in those World Series runs. Springer was in Toronto, and Correa's in Minnesota, and somebody else, Gurriel somewhere else.
Garrett Cole's not there anymore.
Garrett Cole's not there. Zach Greinke's not there. So, I mean, it's not like peak Astros, but this is a team that has the potential to make its, 7th consecutive championship series?
Yes. And
say what you want about the Astros. That's a heck of a run. That's like Braves-esque in the 90s.
As much as I hate them, and I'm always going to hold the whole cheating scandal over them, what they did this year is actually... You have to give them credit. You have to, because look how many injuries they dealt with, right? Jose Altuve gets hurt in spring training.
Yep.
He's out for a while. Like, I don't know about that. Jordan Alvarez out for a while. I mean, my goodness, that guy had one heck of a postseason last year. He put the team on his back sometimes. But you had other guys stepping up, and then you're getting to a point where you're frustrated because you're like, how many guys can they have they just throw in, they just perform right away? And I hate them. I hate Houston.
I know.
hate the Astros. But I am going to be fair. You have to give Dusty Baker and the Houston Astros credit for this year because they won the division the last day of the season. And they do have probably the best experience of any team left in the playoffs. And it's scary because experience does play a factor. That's why I think somebody like Arizona, they're playing with house money right now. They have the rookie of the year in Corbin Carroll. I would assume he's the rookie of the year.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I would think so.
But they're young too. And so for these guys to get experience now, kind of like what we thought with the Guardians last year, right? Oh, these guys are going to come back. They're ready for it this year. Injuries derailed them. Guys did not have seasons you expected them to have in terms of building off last year. I think the Diamondbacks are the team that's playing with house money here, and the Orioles, right? With how young they are too. It's it's interesting to see if the Orioles go out get swept.
Well,
probably not, but
the Orioles, I think, have a little bit of pressure on them to like follow through on this amazing regular season. I mean, 5 years ago they won 47 games, and to make a nearly 60 game advancement is incredible.
And last year they were close too at times. Remember last year they kind of got hot and it was
yes.
like, whoa, could they make
and people were
So for anybody out there fans of a franchise, and this is not a shot at Cleveland, please preface that you guys aren't rebuilt in 4 years, then your team is just a joke.
I mean,
they're New York Yankees.
One season, man. One season, and they're gonna buy their way back into it. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, that Carlos Rodon contract looks great.
It could look better. It could look a lot better now.
Could it look worse?
Thanks for joining us here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.